Hey Chris, how you doing? So, going by the email, where you talked about some of the things that you've been struggling with. You've been struggling with what you feel like is yourself coming over the top, slicing some of the longer clubs, and the occasional pulls with the shorter irons. Okay? And what I find really interesting, this is Tommy Fleetwood up here. You're a 23 handicap. Your backswing is very good. I mean, it's probably the backswing of about a 7 handicapper. Okay, so I'd really like to focus on your downswing. We're going to look at the down the line view next. We're going to get into some drills where I'm going to show you some things to work on. But I always think it's a great way to start to really just have a good knowledge base of what you're trying to do before you go in there and you kind of start tinkering and working on things. So, like I said, you get up to the top here, very good stuff, great full turn, great width at the top. Lead arm is, nice and extended, great stretches. You can see the problem occurs as you start down. And what I want you to really focus on first is, I've got 2 lines there, right? The red and the yellow. You notice how you move closer to the red, right, as you transition, but you don't move at all away from the yellow, okay? Especially in the first few frames when we start down. So you watch when Tommy starts down, he's going to move towards the red like you did, but he's also going to be pushing and moving away from the yellow, okay? So while there is some rotation to his body as he starts, a lot of that's lateral. So I want you to focus here, the inside of his trail leg, like say the inside of his ankle, calf, shin, quad. He's pushing laterally with more force to start that downswing. And that's super important because what happens here, you notice like the width of the club. You notice how the club head is above his head? It's going to move downward, right? It's going to move down and into him where he's going to be able to really gather the force of that club into his body before he drives in and extends it through. But the key movement here is watch the lower leg, the lower trail leg. He's moving laterally to start his downswing. That allows that trail elbow to move in nice and close and that for that golf club to shallow as it starts down, right? So as you start down, you can see that's kind of the missing ingredient there. You see how there's really no lateral push from that trail leg, and that starts more of, say, a spinning or turning motion with the body, and then the hands, arms, and golf club are moving out and away from your body, okay? And that's something that's very important here because what ends up happening from this point, you notice the difference in your trail elbow, right? I can see the top of it very clearly. And with him, with Tommy, I can see the bottom of his trail elbow, okay? We need to get that same look with you. You see how you see the bottom of his trail elbow below his lead arm? And here we see the top of yours. Once your lower body did not move laterally enough, that elbow starts to move away. And now we're into kind of your classic over-the-top throwing motion, right? So we've lost our wrist angles. You notice, like, say, your right wrist, there's no bend into it. And that's not necessarily something you can control at this point. Once that right arm has moved away from your torso, you're not going to be able to hold those wrist angles, right? You notice when Tommy gets down into here, he still has a good amount of bend into that right wrist. Some of it you can tell just because that lag angle between the lead arm and the club is quite substantial, right? Talking about this angle right here between the lead arm and the club shaft. He's got about, a nice 90-degree angle where your lead arm and club have straightened out. Okay, so that really starts to throw havoc into your impact position. So when you get down into impact, we are going to be left, let me pull it up here, with some open face, lofty shots with no shaft lean and no leverage from that trail arm, right? As he gets down into impact, that elbow is so much closer, right? The elbow is closer and more external. And we'll show you that, in person here in a bit. He's going to be able to come in with his hands forward and his right arm now punching and extending through the golf ball, which really transfers so much force and energy, right? More penetrating flights, more draws, all those good things. Okay, so it really just starts with your transition, man. We just do 1 or 2 very small things differently, and you're going to get a huge boost and benefit into the rest of your downswing. All right. Like we talked about, your backswing, Chris, is really, really good. I've loved this little right knee trigger to start. When you get up to that top of backswing position, your left arm, your right elbow, you're going to see, a lot of great commonalities with great backswing. So like I said, I fully believe it's the backswing of a single digit golfer. And that's great to know that you don't need to be spending that much time working into the backswing. The tilt of your pelvis, the left side bend, the shoulder plane, your right elbow position, the club face, your lead wrist nice and flat, left knee breaking behind the ball. I mean, it's very, very good stuff. Not easy to do either. So give you a lot of kudos for that. So the problem starts to happen, like we discussed, a little bit on the downswing. Okay, you can see some of the things that happen here. And you're obviously in very good shape, but you see how active these muscles are in your right forearm and the top of your right arm. Okay, so you've initiated with more of a throwing motion, right? Throwing the club outward because of your body rotating and not moving laterally enough. All right, and that's important because that very first move kind of sets this chain of events where the club's going to be above plane, right? We're going to cut across the ball. You can see that club is open, and you're kind of wiping across the ball there with an open face. And despite how strong you look, it's going to be tough to really hit the ball as far as you probably should. So the body rotates instead of moving more laterally, and then the club goes away from you. Some of that you can tell in some of these images just because you notice how far your trail arm is from your body. It never moved in close enough. Okay? And like we saw from that face-on view, Tommy, right, is moving laterally more. I know from this view, it looks like he's just turning his hips, but he's also moving laterally. That's allowing his elbow to get in nice and close. Okay? So you notice his elbow in this position, it's a little bit up and away from his body, right, as it should be on the backswing. And then it's moving in close. The club head is shallowing, right? That just means that the club head is moving behind that line at the top. That elbow is moving into his torso. So that first movement down, he's actually bringing the club down and in closer to him because of that lateral drive with the rear leg. Okay, and we'll show you exactly what that's going to feel like so you can start doing it yourself as soon as possible. Okay, that gives him a much more powerful position where the club, I like to say, is with him, and now the club head is behind his hands. Okay, that's really important for, having a little more angular momentum so we can hit the inside part of the ball. You notice too that once his elbow gets into him coming down, it's very bent coming into impact. So he can now drive, punch, and extend it through, okay, to really get that force to happen right at the golf ball. So when you get down to that same area, because of that outward motion at the top, you are now kind of running out of right arm. Your right arm is very straight, and the body's starting to raise up, okay? So we're not quite getting that force generation to happen at the proper time just because you threw away a lot of the force right here from the top, and then you're just trying to hold on for dear life at this point. But that right elbow is too far away from you, okay? I like how stored his right elbow looks here. So he can, really extend it and drive it through right at the proper time. So he's bringing the club into him, bringing it in closer, storing that right arm, and then driving it through impact. That really helps with the compression, lower ball flight, and definitely you need that to hit a draw. Okay, you'll see this one as you ran out of right arm there. This ball is going to launch off a little weak and to the right, it looks like. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to love this because we got some great drills that'll straighten you right up without too much effort. All right, Chris, so we're going to start with a great drill. Get a little roll of tape. You can use painter's tape. This is just a little bit of black duct tape. You can use anything you want, and all I want you to do is go ahead and just put that piece of tape right here, just kind of on the right side of your rib cage. And that's going to be because that's where we want the elbow to feel like it reconnects. So we're going to get very good at feeling that elbow be a little away and internal, like you have it in a great position in your backswing. And we're going to get very good at bringing this right arm in like this. Now, this is just the action of my arm. When we do it correctly, it's going to be initiated and controlled with the lower body, okay? But it's good sometimes just to kind of prime that pump of feeling just how perfectly, you see how perfectly my trail elbow just fits in that little pocket right here as it comes down, okay? We saw yours as you got to the top and you started to initiate with more rotation. That's what sends force outward, okay? And your elbow starts to move away from your body. So any type of turning force, you can see if I just demonstrate here, if I just turn, that club head flies away, okay? So when you get to the top here and you start to initiate with a turn, there's this outward force to the club. We need to get more lateral movement, okay? So I'm gonna show this to you first in just a basic stepping drill. Okay, so I just bring my lead foot back to my trail foot. I take it up to the top of my backswing, and right before I get to the top, I'm gonna step forward. And in order to step forward, it doesn't look like it, but I have to be able to push from the inside of my trail leg. Imagine a baseball pitcher pushing off of a pitcher's mound. So I'm pushing forward with my trail leg. You also mentioned that you have one of the bendable shaft swing trainers, whether it be an orange whip, a G-force, lag shot. It's good to kind of get the sensation to happen all at once. So as I step forward, I'm feeling my elbow move into me, right? From this view, you can see when it actually happens, the shaft lays down and shallows as my elbow goes from here to here. From this view, you can kind of see as I do it, there's kind of a pulse to the club, right? So as I go to pull the club down and into me with the initiation from the lower body, you can see how that really makes the shaft bend. And that's the beginning of us storing power, right? So we can save it for that impact interval, right? Where now my right arm is going to finally extend and straighten from this position of when it was right in next to this tape. Okay, so that's as simple as it is. We just need to get you to really feel and master that feeling of pushing from this trail leg. So once you've done that a number of times, you can just do it without the step. And I can feel that same push. So the inside of my trail leg is pushing off here, and that's initiating the club moving into me and really storing a lot of lag. It's going to go a huge long way, especially if we put that together with your already great backswing. You are going to be off and running. Work on that for a few sessions and then just send me some videos just to make sure, right? I'll just give them a quick check just to make sure that everything's working in the right order, okay? As you start to hit balls with it, at first you might experience the ball going a little to the right and a little bit lower. That's totally fine. Just continue to hit. You'll start to adjust the club face and the impact position to where it'll make sense with this kind of more delayed position coming down and through. All right, hope that makes sense. If you have any questions of any of the stuff that I've talked about, whether it be in the voiceover or right here, shoot me a quick email and let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Have a great day, and I'll see you next swing analysis.